The worst may be over, according to Lawrence Young, who's the chief economist for the National Association of Realtors. He released a rosier forecast for the housing markets for 25 and 26 with an outlook for higher home sales and moderating mortgage rates.
This is Las Vegas Real Estate Now with local real estate expert Harvey Blankfeld.
This article came out in Realtor Magazine. It's from the National Association of Realtors, and it's basically the headline is "What's Next for 2025 Housing Market?" And it's written by their economists at the NAR, at the National Association of Realtors. And in this, they comment that the last 2 years have been tough for many people who work in home sales or work in the market. The buyer sell, the worst may be over, according to Lawrence Young, who's the chief economist for the National Association of Realtors. He released a rosier forecast for the housing markets for 25 and 26 with an outlook for higher home sales and moderating mortgage rates. I think this is kind of universally accepted to a certain extent, that mortgage rates have kind of settled, and they probably are going to stay kind of close, maybe drop a little bit, but they're not going to be dropping a lot.
Right. I think what I'm hearing from conversations a lot of times too is stability. Stability is what people are waiting for and looking for. And a lot of people that I'm having conversations with are saying, well, how long am I going to put my life on hold to wait for some sort of major change in the market when there's micro changes,
Yeah, every day.
You can plan a little bit better.
Indeed. My former partner, Shelley, used to say, if you don't like the way the market is today, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know. You don't know what's going to happen. But he goes on to say, on the selling side, homeowners are feeling richer from the rapidly rising prices of the past few years. Now more listings are coming up for sale, and the economy is seeing improvement. All those factors could get more Americans moving in the year ahead. He said further, this week marked the conclusion of the contentious presidential election. So those are behind us now.
Yep.
Now we're going to have 3 years of no presidential election.
The best conditions for a housing market: boring stability and not a lot of volatility.
Indeed. Indeed. And here's something. Listen to this quote. You're going to recognize this quote. You and I both been saying this. We've seen after presidential elections, it doesn't matter who wins. We've been saying, I think he's been listening to the show. I'm not sure. There's usually a slight boost in home sales, and it's a result of people having waited to see what's going to happen. But again, usually it doesn't really matter all that much. But it does remove some uncertainty. Now you know the policy of President Trump. You can make predictions about what will happen and make decisions based on that. So here's their predictions. They predict that home sales are going to go up. The number of homes selling, I think that almost has to happen. It can't go any lower. We've seen the lowest volume in our market in a couple of decades. So in terms of the volume, So here's what he's projecting. 2025 sales projection, existing home sales to rise 9% year over year, and new home sales to rise by 11%. Those are pretty big numbers. That's a pretty bold number, I think.
So, there's unit jump, and then there's also price growth.
Mm-hmm.
So the projections are more sales.
Yeah.
What does it say about does it project price growth in the article?
Well, I think that's included in. Well, no, it's just the sales.
It's just units.
It's
because,
just units.
When prices were free falling,
they are. We do get into prices. Actually, he does mention that later in the article. Next thing he talks about is mortgage rates. According to Freddie Mac, the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage has ranged from 6.08 to 7.44 the past 52 weeks. Yun says rates should stabilize at the low end of that range for the next 2 years, for 25 and 26. So it's in the 6% range. We'll see sometimes in the high fives, low sixes. Maybe we get to the mid fives. Maybe we get to the mid sixes. But I think that's where it's going to be bouncing around. That's what they're predicting. The Fed, as of this article, they'd reduced it again today. I think, was it today or yesterday, they had a meeting and they reduced it another quarter point. But hopeful buyers who may be waiting for lower mortgage rates won't likely see any of that anytime soon. Mortgage rates will not decline in tandem with the Fed rate cut, and he's blaming the bloated budget deficit, which is right. The Fed rate's not tied directly to mortgage rates. It's not.
Yeah.
It's impactful, but not directly tied to it. Here's where we talk about prices. Prices will increase slowly after these rapid rises, according to a result of spread median net worth between homeowners and renters. This is an interesting statement. As a result, the spread in median net worth between homeowners and renters continues to grow. It stands at $415,000 net worth for homeowners versus $10,000 for renters.
Yeah.
This is what we've been talking about. Why do you want to buy a home?
And I know you didn't highlight it, but up here, fueling, we talk about things that fuel real estate moves
Right.
is just human experiences,
Yeah.
growing families, separating families, aging families. A couple of conversations I've had recently, I think you talk about the Fed doing a fantastic job. Stability, slow changes, good for decision making in the housing market.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think they got to wait for a direction in rates or direction of the market to make a decision, but there's so many creative ways to design the lifestyle you want and make a move that gets the wealth development over time that leads to this big disparity between renters and homeowners.
Yeah.
Almost every single time you sit with somebody and say, okay, let's assume rates go up, prices go down,
Right.
and you're here versus here, and you analyze the actual dollar value difference, it's so marginal.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's like, well, okay, I saved a Starbucks budget,
Yeah.
like a couple $100s a month,
Right.
maybe in the process
Right.
by trying to time the market.
Yeah.
And I'm having some families right now, they're saying, well, this is a great opportunity for us there is record levels of equity
Yep.
sitting in properties that are not really generating return.
Yeah.
So I see some consolidations.
Yep.
Families combining resources, aging parents. Let's move in. Let's use the equity in this house. Let's get a better lifestyle and living situation for everybody involved that neither one of them could do on their own.
Right.
And take the excess equity and actually invest it and generate a better return than sitting in the property not being used
Brilliant.
in a wealth development plan. You can custom design solutions way beyond predicting what's going to happen in the market.
Indeed.
And from, I mean, maybe you get lucky, but if you sit and wait, the odds of, the wealth development strategy getting rolling over time,
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter what the market does if you've designed it well.
Yun predicted, their chief economist's forecast for 2025, median home prices go to 410,700, up 2% over 2024, and in 26, median prices go to 420, 2% over 2025. So 2% per year over the next 2 years. I kind of like that. Kind of
Yeah.
like, let's slow down a little bit. It's still going up.
Right. And I think, I'm gonna sound like a broken record on this, but I'm just so passionate about decision-making tools, not prediction tools. Like, okay, so another thing that one of my mentors taught me is, okay, let's not talk about percentages unless you found a bank where you can deposit the percentages. Let's talk about real dollars.
Right.
And $410,000 house, appreciation of 2%. What is that, about $8,000?
Yeah.
$8,000 in growth over a 12-month period. I don't know what's 8,000 divided by 12? Well, divided by 10, it's 800.
700, 800. Yeah.
7 and change.
Seven and change, right.
So you're thinking about your decision-making process. Well, okay, do I want a possibility of an extra $700,000 a month in wealth development?
7,000, yeah.
700 a month
700 a month, right?
in wealth development on top of, for a $400,000 house? It's a different way of decision when you bring it to real dollars.
Yep.
Instead of theoretical percentages. Let's look at your real facts of your situation.
Right. And I think these are conservative estimates myself. We're not here to predict, but I'm just going to say this is very safe numbers and historically low numbers, over time. Over time, I think the average is like 5 or 6%. So these are historically low, which makes kind of sense because we've been blowing up for the last few years. So I think slowing it down makes a lot of sense. Some people out there are predicting it'll go down. I don't see that because supply and demand just doesn't let that happen right now.
Yeah.
We don't have enough houses.